101.3 MyFM in the morning. It is 8:15, alive and kicking. Simple Minds. We'll get back to the music in just a bit, but right now, got a special guest on the air and on Facebook with me. It's Ben Mezrich, the author of such books like Bringing Down the House, one of my favorite books of all time, The Accidental Billionaires, which turned into The Social Network, as we know and love it, and Best in Vegas, which is kind of a follow-up to Bringing Down the House. Ben, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Well, thanks for joining me today. This is exciting. Honestly, Bringing Down the House was one of my favorite books. What was that, like 15 years ago? 15?
It came out in 2002, so even
Okay.
longer. But yeah, it was a really wild story about the MIT team and how they beat Vegas for millions. And it was my first nonfiction book and my first successful book. So yeah, it was a wild time.
Nonfiction, but it did read as a fiction.
Yeah,
book.
I've always written like it's fiction.
Yeah.
I write thrillers, and it just happened to be true that time. But yeah, it's a crazy story.
For the longest time, I really thought I could beat Vegas by reading that book. And then it's funny because when I told my wife you were going to be on, she said the same thing. She goes, "Oh, I read that book." And for like a month or two, I was at the casinos counting cards.
I hope I didn't lose you too much money.
No, not at all. I'm a horrible blackjack player. I really am.
Yeah.
I love the game. It's such a fun game. But I don't know. It's a science. What you wrote about is absolutely a science, and it takes an MIT mind to get through that. For me, I'll just lose the money, I guess. If you can sit at a table and play for, I don't know, an hour, 2 hours, and be down $50, I mean, to me, that's entertainment.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you just do a little bit of reading about it, you can almost get even with the house without even card counting. But
Sure,
if you card count, you can win. So if you read Bring Down the House, it is real. You can win money at blackjack.
Now, is this something, obviously you had to research a lot. Is this something you did? Did you ever have to
when I wrote Bring Down the House, I spent 6 months with the MIT blackjack team. So I traveled with them. I was putting on disguises. I was going through casinos in the middle of the night. And so I do know how to card count, but I'm not, practiced or good at it or anything.
Yeah.
And we got kicked out everywhere. I mean, at this point, if I walked into, the Encore and started betting $1,000 a hand, I would be out of there in about 10 minutes. So,
right. I mean, you have to be able to count cards, but at the same time, not look like you're counting cards.
Yeah, I mean, it's not illegal. You can't go to jail for it,
Sure.
But they will throw you out if they catch you doing it.
They might bust a knuckle, they
not anymore.
in
the old days, they would take you in the back room, but nowadays it's all Disney-fied. It's corporate.
That's true.
Yeah.
So that got turned into a movie, 21. That must have been very exciting at the time for you.
Oh, it was amazing. I mean, 21 was just this incredible fun. People who've seen it, I think it's on Netflix, so you can see it anytime you want. But it was just one of those amazing experiences. All these young actors, and we filmed in Boston for a few weeks, and then we filmed in Vegas for a few weeks, and it was my first introduction to Hollywood. Just a blast. Yeah.
And Kevin Spacey at the time was huge.
At the time, Kevin Spacey was a good thing. You got a call from Kevin Spacey, and you were excited.
Right.
Different era now if you get a call from Kevin Spacey, but at the time. It was amazing. I mean, he called me out of the blue and was like, "I want to make this into a movie." And he's a great actor. And it exploded. Lawrence Fishburne was in it. Kate Bosworth, Jim Sturgis. It was just a great time.
There's a lot of books we could talk about. I'm focusing on the ones, obviously, that people would recognize from Netflix, but the Accidental Billionaires, the Social Network, as we know.
Social Network was just one of those insane moments in life where you write a book about Facebook. You don't think it's going to be a David Fincher, Aaron Sorkin movie.
Right.
And it just was such a great movie. They did such a good job with that. And I think it's always on the top 10 lists of 10 best movies. And it's one of those movies that will live for a long time, I think.
What kind of involvement do you have with the movies when they're being made?
So I'm pretty involved. When the writer is writing it, I'm there with them. So with Sorkin, I was in a hotel room for many months. And then when the movie shoots, I'm on set, but I'm useless. The writer of a book on set is like hang out at the bar and have a few drinks with the actors kind of thing.
Right.
You don't have any power. You don't have any say. Sometimes they'll ask you a question, but they're not allowed to throw you off the set. So basically, you're there as much as you want to be, which is really fun. But your developmental role is all finished at that point.
And you want to be on your best behavior, but it must take a lot for you not to speak up at times and say, well, that's not how I wrote it.
No, I'm not that I'm one of those types of writers. I'm really the type that I'm just excited. I hand them the project and I'm like, this is yours.
Sure.
Sooner or later, someone will make a horrible movie out of one of my books. I've been lucky so far, but I'm not a pushy writer in any way.
Yeah. Well, this helps
always,
a lot too, right? The money.
Well, you
helps.
get money, right? But I've always said a producer's favorite writer is like a dead writer. You buy the rights and then the writer dies. Right. That's what they're hoping happens. You have to expect it's going to be their project when you sell it.
Now, most books can be easily adapted into a movie. Are there any of your books that you would like to see that haven't been talked about yet?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have a lot.
Yeah.
Every time I write a book, I expect it to be a movie. So
sure.
I wrote a book called Seven Wonders, which is a thriller about the seven wonders of the world, which is actually very close to getting made into a movie if Hollywood ever gets its act back together.
Yeah.
And I wrote a book called Ugly Americans, which hardly anybody read, which was a really, I think, a very great story to be made. And then my book, Bitcoin Billionaires, which was my last book, which was about the Winklevoss twins. And it's kind of a second act for The Social Network that will be made as soon as things get back together. So those are the projects that I think are most likely to happen soon. But I could go on a list. I mean, the UFO book, 37th Parallel, is all about UFOs. And I mean, I think there's more and more evidence every day that book was really on target. So,
well, a family movie with your children's book.
Oh yeah, the kids' books. We're working hopefully to get a show out of that.
Yeah.
But my wife and I write a kids series together for middle grade about Charlie numbers. So there's been 3 of those books already. Yeah.
Is there a subject you haven't touched on yet? You tend to write about
I've never written about politics, and I'm not sure I ever want to. But if I had the right story, I would. I've been reaching out to Hunter Biden. I want to tell his story. I think he's the key to everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Love it or hate it, he's on both sides of that story. So
yeah. Well, you're a Boston guy. What about sports?
So I would if I had the right story. I don't know what. I've talked to Jim Rome a bit here and there about doing his book. I love Jim. We're good friends. I don't know what sports story I would tell. There's so many great sports writers in Boston. That's the thing.
Sure.
It's like those journalists are the top of their game. So it's hard to think I would jump in there and know more about any of that stuff. I mean, I love watching it, but I'm not that knowledgeable.
Well, let's talk about the Boston Globe and the Mechanic. What a great collaboration and what a great idea. We haven't seen this since Charles Dickens?
I mean, it's crazy. So basically it's a serialized novel appearing in the Globe every day for 2 weeks. Started last Sunday, so we're halfway through.
Okay.
A couple chapters a day, with great artwork. It's in the paper and online. You can go on bostonglobe.com and start from the beginning. And it's just it's a diversion. People are sick of all the negative news continuously and all the negative articles. Here's something else you can read if you want. And they came to me. It was an out of the blue kind of situation. About a week before it started, the Brian McGorry, editor-chief of the Globe, and Linda Henry, and who owns it, and they basically said, we had this idea of doing a serialized novel like Dickens or Twain, and would you be interested? And it's a little terrifying. I thought about it, and I wanted to do it only if I could do a fully complex Da Vinci Code, National Treasure thriller, because I didn't want to do stream of consciousness literary crap. I wanted something that bringing down the house, So I, in a furious 2-day period, came up with this whole thing, and wrote. I've been writing basically on the fly, and I think it's coming out really great. People are loving it. The amount of attention has been enormous. It's always one of the top read things on the site, which is amazing. And so I think there's people want a diversion, which is nice to see. Yeah,
I agree. Stephen King did that a while back with his The Green Mile. I think it was 6 short books, and you would get them once a month. And when you get done with one part of the story, you're just itching for that next chapter. It's like watching a TV show and the cliffhangers.
Right. It's like appointment TV, the way we used to watch TV. And I love the idea that a whole town or whoever is reading it together. It's really neat that everyone's on the same page, which you don't see in books very often at all. And that's it's neat. I hope this brings back this sort of reading. And I love newspapers. I think newspapers are so important, and something you read every day. We already know all the news. That's the thing. If you pick up the paper, you've already read it all on Twitter the morning before. So what are you learning new? And that's where newspapers have to find their role is what are they telling you that you don't already know?
Yeah.
And that's where a thriller or a serialized book and also opinions and things like that, that's where that comes in. But it's been a great partnership, and the Globe is amazing. So I love it. I hope people keep liking it all the way to the end.
Yeah, and it's great that you can listen or you can read online as well at bostonglobe.com, I would imagine, right?
Yeah, it's at bostonglobe.com, and you'll find it. It's all over the site, but it's The Mechanic, and you can just start from the beginning and catch up. Yeah.
And there's Ben's website right there if you want to check out all the books. What are you working on? I know,
Yeah,
you're
I'm on
probably
the show
focused.
Billions. I don't know if I'm a
Oh,
writer producer on the TV show Billions.
see, I did not know that. That's a great
Yeah,
show. That's an amazing show.
My episode is actually next Sunday that I wrote. Good timing. But I write for that show, which is great. I joined for this season, so I
Okay.
wasn't involved in the earlier seasons, and I love it. Those people are so smart, and I'll tell you that what acting.
Yeah.
Every actor on that show is a golden actor. So if you were enjoying Billions on Showtime, next week is my episode. And I think The Mechanic will be out, after the Globe's run as some sort of book, and we're working on a movie situation with that as well. And as I said, Bitcoin Billionaires will be a movie. So those are the main projects. But
Yeah.
if you come to Twitter and look me up on Twitter, I'll tell you what I'm doing because it changes every day. But right now I'm doing what everybody's doing, which is staying in the house and waiting for things to get back to normal out there. Our simulation is off track right now, so hopefully it'll get back on track soon. Yeah.
Everyone healthy and safe in your family?
Yeah, listen, I have been preparing this my whole life. I don't know if you know, I wrote a book called Q, which you can buy online, but I don't recommend you do. And it's like it was a story about a coronavirus coming out of China. I wrote this in 2004 or something. And it comes out of the middle of China, hits New York. It's infectious before you show symptoms, and we have to quarantine. It's almost the exact story.
Wow.
And it takes place, literally, I wrote a scene in New York where a cop is driving down Fifth Avenue the wrong way, and nobody's on the streets, and the kids are outside with masks on, jumping rope, and it's like eerie. So I've known about this for a decade. And in fact, every morning for a decade, I've Googled China coronavirus because a decade ago, I interviewed all these virologists and asked them what their worst fear was. And it was exactly this.
Wow.
So, this wasn't something unexpected. It's
Sure.
just too bad it happened now and not 10 years from now when science is a little bit stronger. But so personally, I'm very optimistic about the whole thing, but I do see this as something we could have expected.
Yeah.
Everybody here is healthy and happy and good. And,
Good.
we're taking the precautions everybody takes. And I think if everyone does that, we'll be okay.
Well, Ben, it was a pleasure speaking to you. Enjoy your books, and I'm going to enjoy more as I go through your list. I'm like, oh, that one looks great. That looks interesting. All of them just look like great reads. So The Mechanic, Boston Globe right now. So make sure you check that out, and take care.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a lot of fun.
All right. Take care.
Yep.
That's Ben Mezrich on 101.3. We'll be right back.